Hi guys, I hope you're good. I hope you're well and excited for this last part on equations, guys. So what we're doing today is solving literal equations. So that means we are changing the subject of the formula, guys. So this is very important. It's a very important skill, guys, that you need to learn, that you need to always understand, because it will help you in making things the subject of a formula so that you can use it on simultaneous equations for substitution. So guys, I need you to pay attention into this lesson. Okay, so the first part of our lesson today breaks down what literal equations are and how to actually work with them. So a literal equation is one that has several letters, so we work with several letters or variables. Examples include the area of a circle, the speed, etc. So in this section, we solve literal equations in terms of one variable. And to do this, we use principles we have learned about solving equations and applying them to rearranging literal equations. So we will be using a skill that, guys, we already know, and we will be using that technique to ensure that we make any value the subject of the formula. So we need that skill. Okay, and solving literal equations is also known as changing the subject of the formula. So if we give you an equation and say make x the subject of the formula, we are working with literal equations. So that is what it is. Okay, and also we isolate the unknown variables by asking what is it joined to. So that is one very important question, guys. Why what is it joined to and how is it joined? So that's another important question that you need to ask ourselves. We then perform the opposite operation to both sides as a whole. So you remember, whenever we have 2x, let me just write it down on top. So if you have 2x equals to 4 and you are solving for x in this situation, so 2x simply means 2 times x. That is why we perform the opposite operation, which means we divide by 2 both sides so that we can easily find the value of x. So that is the same thing that we'll be doing here on literal equations. So we need to apply that skill too. And if the unknown variable is in 2 or more terms, then we take it out as a common factor. So that means you're bringing back the issue of factorization. So you need to find factors. Okay, so factorization is very important. You need to know your factors by heart, guys. You need to know all your rules of factorization by now. If you still struggle with them, go back to our previous lessons. We have lessons there ready for common factors and factorizing trinomials and so on. Okay, so factorization is also a skill that we need in working with literal equations. And also, if we have to take the square root of both sides, remember that there will be a positive and a negative answer, because a square root, guys, simply gives us a plus or minus as a solution. But in some of the problems, if you are working with time, if you find yourself working with the square root, there's never a negative time. So we just simply take the positive side. If you're using distance, for example, we don't have negative distance, so we take the positive. So there are situations, guys, there are always situations that we need to be realistic and apply it into our everyday lives. Okay, so moving on from that, if the unknown variable is in the denominator, we multiply both sides by the lowest common denominator. So we need to multiply both sides by the LCD and then continue to solve. So these are actually tips for solving literal equations. All right, so grab that pen and paper now, because I have one example ready for you. We need to work with this example. So it says the area of a triangle is A equals to 1 over 2 B times H. What is the height of the triangle in terms of the base and area? So that simply means we need to find what H is. So we need to make H the subject of the formula. So sometimes they won't tell you that make H the subject of the formula. You need to understand what each value on your equation means. So area A is given by 1 over 2 P times H. So if I write it clean for you, that is how you usually get the equation, or you can get it the way it's given on our question. So we need to now make h the subject of the formula. But before we do that, we need to understand that mathematically this means a is equal to b times h divided by 2. So that is a mathematical expression of all of this. So you've managed to simplify one part. Now let's see how do we work out with the second one. So if you have a like that, so we need to ensure that both sides now is a fraction, and we bring in a method called cross multiplication, where we multiply this denominator with the numerator on the other side. So 1 multiplied by b times h is b times h. Okay, so that becomes b times h, and this is equals to what is 2 times a? It's simply 2a. And since we're trying to make h the subject of the formula, b is the value disturbing h, so we divide by b, both sides. So therefore h is left there alone, so therefore h is given by 2a divided by b. So that is how you make the height the subject of the formula. So for you to find the height, you need to multiply the area by 2 and divide it by the base. That is what this equation means, guys. Okay, so now equation number 2. So now let's go to the second problem where we have one more equation. So question number 2, given the following equation, make r the subject of the formula. So we're making capital R the subject of the formula, and this is an interesting question because you have R there, but at the end of the day we need to have one of them as the subject of the formula. So how do we do that, guys? This is how it's done. So you need to understand that R times H up there, you can write this as small h equals to R times H divided by R plus R squared. Okay, so that is another mathematical representation of what you had on top there. So we didn't change much, we just changed how we represented that, how we represent the whole thing. Okay, so now we need to move into making the other side also a fraction. So h over 1. Now you can easily cross multiply. So you can cross multiply, you multiply this value by h up there, so you will have h times r plus r squared equals to, you multiply rh, you multiply it by 1, so this becomes r times h. So now if we want to ensure that we simplify this bracket, so we can easily distribute in h there, so you will have hr plus hr squared. So that is what you have. So you have h multiplied by r, and also you have h multiplied by r squared. So now let me just move this to the other side. So you need to first also equate it to RH. So if I move it to the other side, I have H capital R plus, that should be small r here, guys. So up here we are writing the small r. So plus H r squared small r equals to R capital H. Now, because I now see that I have HR there and HR to the other side, I need to perform one special thing here, because I know it's going to help me. So I will take H and small r squared to the other side and bring RH to the other side, because I need R and R in one part of the equation. So I will have RH capital R minus R times H equals to negative HR. r squared. So the reason why you have these negative signs is because the moment things jump equal signs, they have to change the original signs that they had. So now guys, it simply means I can make r a common factor. R is actually a common factor now because it appears both sides. So if I take out r, capital R is a common factor, I am left with small h minus capital H. And I equate this to minus h r squared, so small r squared. So now since I have one r out, I can simply divide both sides by h, small h minus capital H. So I do whatever I do on my left, I must do it on my right hand side. And this means this whole part cancels that one, and you are now left with r being negative small h small r squared, and you have small h minus capital H. So that is how you make capital R the subject of the formula. So this technique is also called manipulation. So you manipulate your values to whatever that you need it to be. So you know that your result has to give you R as the subject, so you need to apply all the laws of mathematics that you know. Everything that we did here is legal, so please don't kill values, guys. Make sure that you follow the rules properly. Okay, so just for a bonus, I have one more for you. So this is the last example that I have for you. So now let's see how we can make R the subject of the formula. So you're given there, solve for R if V equals to pi r squared h. So actually that's a volume formula. Okay, so that's a formula for volume. So I suggest that you can pause the video now and come back for corrections. So guys, solving for R in this problem, you see that you don't have R, you have R squared there. So that's a problem. Now, writing this, V equals to pi R squared H. Now, let me try to rearrange this so that you don't confuse yourself. So if I can still write this as V equals to pi H R squared. So I just interchanged the positions of these two values, sorry, yeah, of these two values. So it's still the same thing. It's more like I've said 2 times 3 times 4, and I simply wrote this as 2 times 4 times 3. So I just changed the position of these two things and they'll still give me the same answer. Now what we do this time around is we try to isolate R as much as we can, but you don't have R, we have R squared. So this is the method that we're going to use. So you divide both sides by pi h. Divide both sides by pi h. So pi h goes away and you're left with R squared. So now let me just write R squared equals to V over pi h. But we are looking for R instead of R squared, so that is where we introduce the square root. So the moment you have the square root sign both sides, so therefore R is given by the square root of V divided by pi h. So that is how you get your final answer, and that is how you make R the subject of the formula. So guys, I hope you enjoyed working with these. I'm sure your textbook, or if you can go to Siavula, they have plenty of these questions. You can keep on practicing them. It's a good technique, guys. You need this technique, okay? So please guys, keep on practicing this stuff and trust me, you'll get them right. So thank you for joining me today on this lesson, guys, and I hope to see you on the next one.